Do it to the cloud.
Okay, I gotta hit continue. Cool.
Okay, so here we are. Let's go to our Facebook world and see if we can change some lives today.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Absolutely. It is preparing our streaming, which
Cool,
I
cool.
love.
We'll give it a second till it's for sure on and running.
Yes, I believe it's there.
I'll check on
Not
my end
quite
too.
sure.
You got
I
your
know.
phone to the side. I'll check my phone and
I know, right? Do I have to
see
still
what
hit?
Cecilia's got going on here.
Do I still have to?
Cecilia Wyman is live, man.
All right. Yes, we are. Fabulous. Okay, I'm super excited.
Me
Hello,
too.
everybody.
Hey, hey.
I have not been live in a while, and it is time to go live because I just went to graduation like a couple weeks ago. I was invited by my former third graders that now actually graduated, and I was able to go and watch them receive their diplomas. And while I was standing there all proud and like, yeah, a little bit crying, obviously, I was wondering, like, are they going to be the ones that going to go for it in life, or are they going to be the ones that get stuck? Because there are lots of statistics that over 80% of people in their careers actually are stuck and don't like them, to not use the word hate. So I'm here today with my coach, Donovan Dreyer, and he and I are very, very passionate about that word of getting stuck in a career that you don't like. So you and I are going to talk a little bit about what is the cause, why does it happen, and especially what the solutions are for that,
For
right?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited.
It's just, for me, always going for, not settling and changing careers and keeping going. And I feel like that's not always something that a lot of people do. That's normal. Like for me, that's normal to get out of my comfort zone. And I think it is because I am surrounding myself with people and coaches that help me get through that, right? And you have been a school counselor for 20 years, so you have a lot of experience working with teenagers, the kids that I was watching walking down and figuring out what life is going to be next, right? So what's your experience with teenagers? Like, how do they get stuck and what do we do about it?
Yeah, so I think all the previous generations, thank you, Cecilia, for having me on. And it's exciting to do this. And I'm looking forward to just, continue and expand our connection and both of us being from the school world and now having this connection. It's really, I think a great perspective to have both this attitude, because I'm just like you. I refuse to settle. And, I think I've found myself in positions that didn't fit. And then I know I've got to get that exit strategy. I've got to find my way out. And I am not, I don't have a problem with change either, but most people do. Most people get super, super comfortable in whatever they do, even if it's comfortable discomfort. So I think that's the challenge, is that it's hard to make a change for most people. And so if you're a coach like me or a coach like you that helps people actually embrace and confront those changes and challenges, it's vital, because otherwise people do stay stuck. So I think the reason why 80% of the people are out there in careers that they don't like, but they've stayed with them, is that they just can't do it alone. It's like, I think our brain feels like it's a saber-toothed tiger going to eat us or something, because challenge makes us want to shut down and just stick with what's comfortable. So whether we've just put that resume out there and we thought we're going to change in the future, and then 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20, 30 years pass, and people will just stick with something that's not a great fit because it's just hard to change all on our own. So that's my thought. So you're a person that doesn't like to settle. What do you think is the reason so many people are out there without this attitude of embracing change like you have?
think from my own experience is in the past, like I had a good life. I love teaching, and I have a great community of friends and people that support me. But I wanted a great life, and I think people are okay just being okay. And I don't want that to happen for people, because when you get out of your comfort zone, again, we talked about that, right? When you push out of your comfort zone, that's where the real magic, I think, happens. And for me, having been a mentor to some of these students that just graduated and students that have graduated a few years ago, it's incredible to see how they push themselves beyond that comfort zone. But not all of them do that. So I think it's vital that we find coaches. And I think, I wonder, like, why is it so hard for people to get a coach, right? You and
Mm.
I were talking about having a coach for any type of sport or anything we do, right? Can you elaborate a little bit on that and why people
For sure.
maybe not want to have a coach for life? I think that's interesting question and a bizarre one.
Yeah, I mean, it's before coaching really existed. I thought the game of life certainly should have coaches because they make such a big difference. Even when somebody's a Hall of Fame athlete, greatest of all time. I think like with the Spurs, they made fun of Coach Popovich, like because he would just say, "I when I call timeout, I'm just going to tell them to pass the ball because they're hogging the ball. They're Hall of Famers, but they're not passing it enough." And then the reporters are like, well, you wouldn't really just tell them to pass the ball, these Hall of Famers, would you? And then, like, Popovich always gets angry with those dumb questions. When the reporter without like hands full of rings of championships asks those kind of questions, he realizes they'll never get it. They'll just never get it that some people, even Hall of Fame athletes, do need that timeout in their game to have somebody say from the outside perspective, hey, you're missing something. It's not going right for you. And you have no idea why, because you're just in the midst of the game and playing. So none of the greatest athletes of all time would kick their entourage or their team to the curb or their coaches to the curb. They would stick with them because they know that's what's going to get them to a championship. And I feel like, just like you, we wouldn't want to have the game of life be a game of settling, of just good enough, or not really seeing what our potential is as, champions in this game. So I think that the thing is, it's just not common. We haven't translated that over to where coaches actually for the game of life are going to give you that same kind of edge. Plus, it's a new field too. I think a lot of people don't feel like maybe there's a coach out there that they could really believe in or trust. And I think that's why it's important to kind of tell what's the experience that we have or our expertise or where that comes from. For me, I messed up, but I instantly pivoted from aviation immediately. I saw how excited a pilot was, and I thought there's got to be some other department of life that's really that exciting for me. Because even though flying planes is pretty cool, it just wasn't really doing it for me the way I saw this person light up that was in the career field already. So I immediately pivoted because I was really hungry to have what mattered to me. And I ended up having a coach for 4.5 years. One of my very first coach, I kept for 4.5 years. And I thought I was already really close to great, or already pretty great with attitude and everything else in life. And it ended up that, having that support there constantly for a good 4.5 years was super, super important to keep elevating and elevating and elevating and getting past the norms and the average and just being good and just being okay. So okay was not good enough for me. And I feel like it's something that most people have no idea how to break free, or the value of coaches, or even how to find a really good one too. Because a lot of people are basically saying like they can be a coach out there these days. So how do you find a good one? Do you really use it? Is it going to make a change in your life? I think all of those things are real questions on a person's mind when they look at this whole field.
Yeah, and I think what's great about you and me is, like, we've worked with teenagers for many years, so we understand where they come from. We understand um, what their hesitations are. And in school, there are, a lot of not just sports, but I also think about all these clubs that are out there. Like, I've worked with FCCLA. We have the Grange at school. There are all these organizations that help kids with their personal growth and trying to figure out life. But once they get to junior and senior year and have to figure it out and don't really know what's that passion, right? Because kids don't want to have a 9 to 5 job, most of them. They want something where they can contribute, where they have a community, where they have a lifestyle that goes with them. And when they find that passion that you were talking about, I think that's when life gets really exciting. And I love that you help students with that transition, right? Like instead of just going from like, well, there's 5 careers out there, which one am I going to choose? You actually have a system where you help kids figure out what they really want to be when they grow up. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we go K through 12 with these standards in place. The teachers have so much to cover. I've worked at the elementary level a few years, and it's just amazing, even down to like the youngest grades. They feel like there's so much they have to cover. So it's like prescribed. In other words, like it's told what you have to do. All those grades after 13 years of K through 12, suddenly it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And again, like most kids don't really put much energy into it. It's like, well, I'll just go to college and figure it out from there. And then we go to college and somehow we're going to pick a major. And like 80% of the time, kids don't stick with their major. So, you know, we're trying to get into this place of suddenly being an originator in our life, a creator in our life, and to actually go for things like you talk about. But it's like, well, I've had these 13 years plus maybe a couple of more, and like, okay, you got to pick your major now. And then it's like, oh man, I wish I would have done construction. I really love building things. How did I get into this situation of having to pick a major? I love working on cars. How did I get into this? Or man, I love makeup. My oldest daughter, you know, is making a new post on TikTok with makeup stuff, and she's building her resume and portfolio in that space. She gets great grades, but it's not an automatic that we should just rush off to college and say, okay, I have no clue what to do, so just tell me what to do some more. So we don't magically get to this place where
Donovan,
we
I have Chris on there, and she's like, I still feel that way at 47. That's why I am working with Donovan, right? Like that's why I at 43 have a coach, right? Because I love teaching, but I want to keep growing. And that's where he can help. You know, he can help on the teenage side and he can also help on the adult side because you and I have been working now. Can you believe it? Like for like in a year almost together.
it's been a year.
Almost, yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, it's, I mean, time flies when you're doing something powerful. It's, you know, it's fun to contribute. It's fun to not settle. And it's much more fun to have somebody that's providing you that support, you know, having a coach that actually is going to hold you accountable. And not that do I do that?
Uh, yeah, like every single time we talk. And
So
I
yeah,
sometimes say like I hate you a little bit, but I know that you are the one that nudges me to do the things I want to do so
right.
I can grow. Yes, and that's a
Yeah.
good coach. Just
Yeah,
like
and
in
it's great to
sports.
find somebody coachable too. Like we want an athlete that's coachable in sports, but if it's the game of life, you know, you're a great example of somebody who's 43, yet you really want to go for it. You're coachable. You want to make those moves. So you know, it's really hard even with a coach if the person's not going to go for it and they're, you know, you got to bring them along by the ear, kicking and screaming. You know, within the high school realm as a counselor, I've had to do that where, you know, let's get them to the graduation finish line no matter what, whether they feel like doing it, if they need that last credit from an online class or whatever, let's get it done. So I've definitely been in those positions where I really got to be the crazy motivator. But it's so much nicer when you've got a good connection. And for me, like having this experience of coaching grownups and then thinking about what teens can do proactively to avoid what
So
most
they
grownups
don't get right. So they don't get to
yeah,
our spot in their 30s and 40s and 50s and are like, oh, I think I'm kind of stuck. Why did that
yeah.
happen? So you catch them before they even go down that route. So I
Yeah,
really
that's ideal. The ideal thing is let's get you on track for really going for it. Just dream big. Some people struggle to dream big. People are like shutting it down. Let's go to plan B. You know, one of the kids I could think of, Allie, she was dreaming. She actually like, as I'm going to be a lawyer is what she decided that she was going to do. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, I don't know. My parents want me to be safe, secure, and all those things. And plus I like arguing, but she was amazing within theater. And I was like, well, what about theater? She's like, oh, you know, I don't know, maybe. I thought about it a little bit and I was like, well, you were amazing. You stole the show, even though you didn't have the lead in our last musical. And she's like, well, thanks. And then she was just kind of like moving on. But, you know, ultimately she did get inspired from our conversation to go for it. And then, so she can go with plan A. A lot of times kids are going with plan B because it's safer, more secure, or seems that way, until we hate Mondays, Monday
Mm,
after Monday after Monday after Monday, year after year after year after year. And so if kids can avoid that by putting way more energy into this, you got to invest time, you got to invest energy. And with coaching, yes, you have to make an investment of money into it as well to actually set yourself on that different course, that different
But
path.
if you're talking about money, right? But if you spend the money now, you'll be saving yourself a lot of headache and a lot of money
Mhm.
down the road when you have to change careers or you want to change careers because you're so stuck, right?
Yeah, don't get in that place where you're stuck and you're not a changeable person. Don't get into something that you don't like, because it might work out that you find what you love instead. And then you turn around 30 years later and you're like, that was
Ah,
so good. I had that. I'm glad that I actually went for it because it worked. And then I
exactly.
did 30 years of that. Much better to find the right position from the get go than
Absolutely.
trying to change at 40 something. It's hard.
Yeah. And I know you and I are going to be talking about this again because you and I are super, super passionate about it, but we also want to keep it kind of short and
Yeah.
sweet just to get people an introduction to the work that we do. So if people want to get a hold of you, I will post your contact information in the chat. Or is there anything else you would want them to know, or I can just put it in the
Yeah, I'm on
comments?
Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, so people can message in any one of those places. And then yeah, if you want
Or reach out to
to
me because I can directly connect you to
for
Donovan
sure, yeah, an
because we
introduction would be
work
great.
together.
Yeah,
And I appreciate your time. I appreciate you nudging me and helping so many teens because that's how we connected, right? Our passion
yeah,
and love to help kids figure it out before they get stuck in life. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate that so much.
yeah, it was
And
great.
then we will talk again, Facebook world. Bye.
See ya.